Thank you, Georgia. I appreciate. Thank you to all the speakers for sharing your thoughts and experiences and helping paint the picture of what child poverty looks like in this province. So now we'll open it up to questions from the media and to any of the speakers, and we'll do our best to answer them.
You mentioned, Georgia, that one of the things they could do is raise the rates. Is there anything else that the government could do now, today, to make a difference?
Certainly, yes. There's 21 recommendations in there. We need a plan in British Columbia, so we're expecting that because it's been promised that we'll have a poverty reduction plan in the province. And within that plan, we'd like to see a number of things. So for those who are working poor, we want wages to go up, whether it's at least the minimum wage needs to go up to $15 an hour as quickly as possible, as well as paying living wages. Government is a very large employer and contractor, and so whether they're funding social service agencies or whether they're funding hospital workers, et cetera, we want to see those wages be living wages and not poverty wages. So the wage side, because most poor children live in poverty. But of course, for single parents, being 1 in 2 children in single-parent families are poor. That one earner isn't going to make enough, certainly not on minimum wage. So we want to see childcare. They can't work unless they get childcare, and we want that to be good quality childcare. So that's at the top of the list, or one of the things at the top of the list is that childcare system. We want to see the $10 a day childcare plan implemented in this province, again, as quickly as possible, so that low-income families that we're talking about today can put their children into a quality early learning and care environment right away with no fee if they make less than $40,000 a year. Of that, for those more middle income earners and above, make it affordable and not as incredibly expensive as it is now in this province. So childcare is very important, and it needs to be quality, and the people who work in childcare need to be paid enough so they'll stay in the field. We have a shortage of childcare workers in the province. Housing, huge issue for families. So of course we want to see a housing plan from the province, and especially we want, and this is we want federal money to come in, of course, and it is, but we want more federal and provincial investments in social housing, in affordable housing, in rental housing. So there's a lot of work to do in that field because we're seeing homelessness among children and families, obviously. That can't continue to happen. We want to see addiction recovery programs funded properly. I mean, some of the things that Sean has mentioned today are, and we want to see grandparents who are raising grandchildren, we want to see their needs reflected in the kinds of supports that are available. We want to see many things. We want to see that child benefit that Georgia was referring to come up. Right now it's an early childhood benefit only. It's $600 a year. We want to see it doubled to be Ontario's at least, which would be a little over $100 a month. And we want to, or better, to get to Quebec's rate, which is about 3 times what BC pays. And all the other provinces that have child benefits go up to age 18. BC's is only an early childhood tax benefit. So that's something we could do right away. There's just a few things, but there's a lot of other things in there. We need to address the issues of Indigenous poverty, particularly. The stats don't paint that picture well enough because they don't, like the census data doesn't capture on-reserve poverty. And so, we're critical of, but we work with the numbers we have. So we know that that's an undercount, and we need to really work with First Nations to recognize the historical impacts of colonization and make sure we raise up those children to meet their full potential as well with the supports they need. So any other questions? Yes?
The report says the number is slightly down from the 2014 numbers.
Mm-hmm.
What is the province doing right?
What's the province doing right? I think the slight decrease there may not be from anything the province has done, because actually income assistance or income inequalities continue to grow in this province, and it's bigger than it is in some other provinces. So I think it may be. Since most children work, it's probably coming from we don't know actually, we don't have the answer to that question, but it's probably income that people are earning enough, so our unemployment rate's down a bit. So we know people are working, and so that's probably where because income assistance rates have not increased to take children out of poverty. We got $100 a month, but that didn't lift anybody out of poverty who's on income assistance. So it's likely in the labor market.
And do we know why BC average higher than the national average?
No, I don't think we do. Other than that, our investment, I've mentioned the child benefit is lower than other provinces, or certainly than the big ones that we measure ourselves against, like Alberta and Ontario and Quebec. So we could do more on that on that rate. We haven't. I don't know. I don't think our welfare system is worse than others. I think it's awful across the country. Except that's not true. In some of the eastern provinces, families are allowed, or people on income assistance are allowed to go to school. Like and we don't allow that except if you're in a special program and you take a 12-month program. It's a very narrow window. So there are things we could do to help people who are trapped in poverty on income assistance. We could do better and do some things that other provinces are doing.
Just
Yeah.
one more question. Can you give us a breakdown on visual minority numbers? We know that the total number is 23%, which is high. Do you know, do you have any statistic numbers between South Asians, Chinese, Aboriginal, everybody?
We have the percentages in the report card. I don't have that. We can get you the data. We don't have the numbers in our head right now, I don't think, the actual numbers of kids. But yes, we can break it down. The census data does break it down by ethnicity and by language. And so we didn't put all of that in the report card, but we can certainly supply it. If you send us an email, we'll send you the numbers. Oh, yes. Yes. Discrimination in housing and employment, what we would call systemic discrimination. Absolutely. These groups these are not individual failings. That's not why they're overrepresented. It's because there's something structural, and that's difficulty finding employment, having credentials recognized, the wait list for English language classes, and especially for women, if they don't have childcare. How do they get to English language class? They end up waiting until to get into programs that have childcare attached. So there's a number of structural issues, again, that would fix that much more quickly if we put in place supports and recognize their credentials. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
It was mentioned, or I can't remember, sorry, which one of you mentioned it, but talking about going up to age 24 for poverty. And as we talked a lot about kids in the foster care system too early at 18, I was wondering why any future plans of measuring poverty up to 24, or why cut it off at 18?
We use 0 to 18 because it's the UN Convention on the Rights of Child definition of children. So we stick to that, and some of the data we get is in that package, so that's how we can measure it. But certainly we know that youth who are over 18, especially those who are aging out of foster care, are ending up homeless or on income assistance, and entering the ranks of adult poverty. So we work to and there are recommendations in the report card for improving support for youth transitioning out of government care, and we'll continue to work on that. And it's hard to get data. It's 15 to 24 is what they'll give you in the data. Anyway, so it's a little hard to put the data together for that age group, and we focus on child poverty nationally because that was the promise from the House of Commons, to eliminate child poverty. But certainly youth poverty is top of mind as well.